breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hello and brotherly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got a great podcast for you guys. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Jeff Parles, one of our good friends here at the network. He does great work with the Saturday and Sunday bet prep shows, which is pretty much at the same time on weekends as the Greg Peterson Experiences on VSiN during weekdays. And he has filled in on the Greg Peterson Experience a few different times, one of just 2 men to host the Greg Peterson Experience that are not named Greg Peterson, so he gets high marks and reverence with that regard, and we're going to be chatting with him about some of the surprise teams that we have seen early on this season, what we've all been seeing in the NL Central with the Brewers and the Pirates off to great starts, and what in the world is happening with the St. Louis Cardinals, who entered into yesterday 10-19, and well, it's been a less than savory run for them, so we're going to be chatting about that, and then we're going to be previewing some of Wednesday's games, and then in the final segment, going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at Unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. They mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Really did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we had a fun-filled baseball day on Tuesday, and we had a few games for Monday to clean up as well. So let's take a look back at those, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
We did see the Cincinnati Reds go down to the San Diego Padres by a count of 8-3, so the teams that were coming back from Mexico City did go 1-1 on Monday. As for Cincinnati, Luke Weaver just got lit ablaze, giving up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, as Alex Young then gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a home run as Ha-Seong Kim took him deep, 3rd home run of the season. You had Revier San Martin give up 2 runs in an inning, but you did have 2 scoreless innings out of Casey Lagomina, who's been looking relatively solid for the team. And hey, for the Reds, they got their 5th road home run of the season off of Blake Snell, with Nick Senzel getting 3rd home run of the season. For Snell, gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, including that home run. But Domingo Tapia was able to give you 2 scoreless innings, and Steven Wilson a scoreless inning. As I am doing this right now, because I have to record this a little bit early, the Greg Peterson Experience is from midnight to 3 Eastern Time on VSiN. Do not know how our DK Nation pick in the under of Reds versus Padres did for Tuesday, so hopefully that's able to get in there, and hopefully I'm able to report a winner on the podcast tomorrow. But also from Monday, the LA Dodgers were able to get their mojo back with their offense, 13-4. They completely destroyed the Philadelphia Phillies. Tony Gonsolin, 4 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, didn't necessarily look sharp, as he did give up a home run to Kyle Schwarber, 7th home run of the season, but Taijuan Walker looked far worse, giving up 3 bombs, 8 runs in total over the course of 3 1/3 innings. As for the LA Dodgers, you had Jason Hayward get his 4th home run of the season. You had also a home run from David Peralta, his 2nd home run of the season. Will Smith got jiggy with it. He's back from the injured list, home run number 4 of the season. Then Craig Kimbrell in relief gave up home run number 5 of the season to Mookie Betts, as he gave up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Luis Ortiz gave up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Cody Clemens. We've seen a Clemens be able to be dominant on the mound. 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Junior Marte, he was able to give a scoreless inning, and Andrew Vasquez went 1 2/3 innings, giving up a run. Meanwhile, for the LA Dodgers, bullpen wasn't too bad. Joby Bower, Victor Gonzalez piecemeal together 3 scoreless innings, and Phil Bickford allows 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. Then when it came to Tuesday, you saw the Tampa Bay Rays continue to keep it rolling. 4-1. They take down the Pittsburgh Pirates, as Odonsi Contreras did not have it in this one. 4 runs surrendered in 5 1/3 innings, as Harold Ramirez took him deep. 6th home run season for Javi Guerra. You got 2 outs as the opener before Josh Fleming was able to come in as a bulk guy. 3 1/3 innings, gave up 1 run. And then from there, Colin Boucher, Ryan Thompson, Jalen Beeks, Jason Adam, and Kevin Kelly, they all lend a scoreless inning. For the Rays, they win this game while going 2 of 11 with men in scoring position, by the way. And for the Pirates, bullpen was relatively good. Dory Moreta, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and then you had Yohan Ramirez come in for a scoreless inning. But for the Tampa Bay Rays, they did a good job of stranding men on base, Pirates, they left 11 men on base. They went 0 of 10 with men in scoring position. Nothing doing for the Miami Marlins on Monday. The Atlanta Braves get a 6-0 win as they went 1 of 11 with men in scoring position, the Braves did, but they had an Albies home run to be able to help them out. 8th home run season comes off of Sandy Alcantara. Didn't look sharp in this one. Gives up 3 runs, only goes 5 innings, gives up 3 walks. From there, you had 3 runs and 2/3 of an inning allowed by Yohan Quezada. That was not too terrific. Andrew Nardi, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and Stephen Okert, Matt Barnes, they both led a scoreless inning, but it wouldn't have mattered if Sandy Alcantara gave up 1 or 100 runs because his team did not score. Bryce Elder was amazing, 7 scoreless innings, 6 punch-outs, no walks. Kirby Yates, Joe Jimenez from there. They clean up the 8th and 9th inning. They go scoreless out there. You saw the Washington Nationals be able to get it done against the Chicago Cubs by a count of 4-1 as for the Cubbies, Patrick Wisdom really produced the lone run of the game for them. He got home run number 11 of the campaign as Hayden Wesneski gave a really good start in this one. Gives up a 1 run over the course of 6 innings. For Washington, though, you had Trevor Williams give up nothing in 5 1/3 innings. Carl Edwards Jr., 2/3 of an inning scoreless before Mason Thompson give up that solo home run to Patrick Wisdom in 2/3 of an inning before Hunter Harvey, Kyle Finnegan. They clean up the final 2 innings of this one. Meanwhile, for Washington, no home runs, but they go 3 of 11 with men in scoring position as they got to Keegan Thompson. Gave up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning before Michael Rucker was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Jeremiah Estrada, was able to give you a scoreless inning. The New York Yankees, they get one through as they were able to take down the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 4-2. As I do this right now, they are cleaning up the top of the 9th as I do this broadcast, as you did have a nice start from young Tanner Bibby for the Cleveland Guardians. Gives up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings, but James Karinchak yaks this game up. He gives up a home run in 1 1/3 innings before Eli Morgan gets 4 outs. He allowed a run of his own as going deep for the New York Yankees. How about Willie Calhoun getting his first home run of the season off of Karinchak, and then Bibby gave one up to Anthony Volpe, his 3rd home run of the campaign. For Garrett Cole, legitimately his worst start of the season. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Bullpen at his back, though. Ron Mandanacchio, Wandy Peralta, pair of outside the bullpen. And as I do this, Michael King trying to clean up the rest of the game, as we have a lot of games that are still in progress as I do this show, but at the same time, this is one that I think is very fascinating with the Blue Jays and the Red Sox over already in the bank and earning interest. 6-6 going into the bottom of the 8th as Yusei Kikuchi got shelled, giving up 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of homers. For the Boston Red Sox, you had Christian Arroyo get his first home run campaign, and then you had Masataka Yoshida get his 5th. Christian Wong a little bit later on against Zach Pop, he gets a 2nd home run season, and Tanner Houck, as of right now, has given up all 6 of those Red Sox earned runs in 6 innings, as he did allow a home run to Dalton Varsho, 3rd home run season. You've gotten a scoreless inning since then of John Schreiber along with Richard Blyer, so we shall see how that one shakes out. And we are going to be going to extra innings in this one as the Chicago White Sox left the bases loaded in the 9th inning, because that's just what the White Sox do, as it's 2-2 there as Joe Ryan, he pitched 6 scoreless innings before Oye Lopez gave up 2 runs in an inning, giving up a home run in the process to one Eloy Jimenez, his 3rd home run season. Michael Kopech was actually bailed out by his defense in this one. There was a nice home run save for him, giving up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Alex Colome, they've added him to the bullpen, so that's just great. He gave up 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. Gregory Santos, a scoreless inning. Keenan Milton, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, so we shall see what happens out there. This game is going to be final relatively soon. As of right now, the Orioles are up by a count of 10-4. As for Baltimore, Tyler Wells, he completed 6 innings. He gave up 4 runs along the way, including 3 homers, as Salvador Perez get his 4th home run season, MJ Melendez his 3rd, and Bobby Witt Jr. his 5th. But it was better than Ryan Yarbrough. He gave up 5 runs in 3 2/3 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Baltimore Orioles, Ryan Mountcastle off of him for his 7th home run season. Then you take Jose Cuas deep for his 8th home run season. Cuas, 1 1/3 innings. He allows 2 runs. Josh Shaler has since given up 3 runs in an inning as well. So that is looking all sorts of disastrous. It's looking all sorts of disastrous right now for the St. Louis Cardinals. They are entering into the back half of their game against the LA Angels, down by a count of 5-1 because Steven Matz gave up 4 runs in the first inning. And if this is indeed a Steven Matz loss, that means that Steven Matz is going to have lost pretty much all 5 of his starts for the St. Louis Cardinals thus far this season. He already had lost 5 starts, and this will be number 6 for him, as just has not been able to give you anything whatsoever. 4 runs surrendered in 5 innings, including a home run for the LA Angels. You had Taylor Ward go deep, 4th home run season. Patrick Sandoval only completed 5 innings, but gave up 1 run, so now it's in the hands of the LA Angels bullpen, which that's always a little bit of a roll of the dice. And when it comes to some later games, as of right now, Diamondbacks up by a count of 4-3 against the Texas Rangers. A game involving Zach Gallen and John Gray has turned all sorts of haywire for Zach Gallen. He had a nice scoreless inning streak going that got snapped in inning number 1. He had went 4 straight starts, a grand total of 27 innings without allowing a run, and he, in that time span, had a strikeout to walk rate of 41, which has since ballooned to 47, by the way, so that has been absolutely insane to keep track of. And then the San Francisco Giants, as of right now, are up by a count of 2-0 on the Houston Astros. With the Giants, Anthony DeSclafani has given up just 1 hit in 5 innings, and for the Houston Astros, Hunter Brown was yanked after 4 1/3 innings, allowing 5 walks, only gave up 2 runs, so he wasn't giving up a lot of contact, but he was just all sorts of all over the place. So we're going to have a lot of cleanup with these games on the podcast tomorrow. But what I can tell you right now in terms of what we're seeing in Major League Baseball is that the unders are starting to come to the forefront a little bit more. We did see quite a few overs on Monday, and obviously we've got a lot of games pending for Tuesday, which I'm going to be cleaning up on the podcast tomorrow. But 209 overs to 204 unders, so that's about a 50.5% clip overall for the season to the over. Meanwhile, favorites, they've been having themselves a field day this year. 264 and 165 straight up, but we have seen 67 favorites be unable to cover the run line of -1.5, be able to win by multiple runs. So that has been of note. And if you take a look at the last 7 days of Major League Baseball, 45 unders of 40 overs. So the under hitting at nearly a 53% clip in this time span. Favorites are 54 and 34, hitting at 61.5%, but among those favorites, just 37 have covered the run line. So that's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we all got on late Monday into Tuesday. Coming up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show, we're going to be joined by one of our good friends, Jeff Parles, here at VSiN. He does a great job taking a look at the great game of baseball. We're going to be asking him about the harebrainedness that we're seeing in the NL Central, and we're going to be turning it forward to Wednesday's games next, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units return, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by this man, as Jeff Parles does a great job as one of our aces on the weekend here at VSiN. You're able to catch him on the Bet Prep shows, which that's every Friday and Saturday if you're out on the West Coast. That is Saturday and Sunday if you're out east, because it is more like a 9 to midnight Pacific time show out west. Out east, that would be midnight to 3. So it sort of overlaps a pair of days, but Jeff does an amazing job taking a look at everything from what we're seeing in the playoffs in the NBA and the NHL. Does an incredible job with the MLB as well, and a man that you're able to follow at his name, Jeff Parles, and that's Jeff with a J, not a G-E, but Jeff, it's always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Hoops. Always a pleasure.
Always great to be able to get you aboard. And Jeff, I know you're a man that prior to you moving out here to Las Vegas, you were out in the great state of Missouri. So I have to ask you this. What in the world is going on with the St. Louis Cardinals, who entered into Tuesday 10-19? Because I, being a fan of the Milwaukee Brewers, just always feel like the St. Louis Cardinals have it in their contract to where they must have no fewer than 82 wins at the end of the season, but no more than 94. They just always seem to be that steady Eddie team, and this year they have been anything but that.
Greg, it's the first time that they have been in the last place at the end of the month of April since the NL Central existed, Greg. That's 1994. The last time they were in the last place after April was in 1989, I think it was. They got monster issues, monster problems right now. I don't know why. It doesn't seem like it's overly fixable, though, because the pitching has been mediocre. The offense has been a big disappointment. And even, again, high-end guys like Arenado and Goldschmidt, it hasn't mattered because Arenado hasn't been himself. Right now, I mean, they're not getting any power. Nolan Gorman's leading them in homers. So, look, they have a lot of problems. They're in a problematic division, which is kind of crazy because the Brewers, I think, are legitimately good, and the Pirates are playing out of their minds. And, I mean, they're 10 games behind the Pirates when we're recording this on May 2nd, going into May 3rd. Which is unfathomable, Greg. So it's really difficult to see. Again, it's hard to make up 10 games on anyone. But if there's going to be any race that 10 games are made up, it would make sense for it to be the Cardinals making it up on the Pirates, the preseason favorite against the team that was expected to lose in the 90-some-odd game range. But the Cardinals aren't bad, and they're one of the worst teams in the National League. But, Greg, as you and I both know, you never should give up on the Cardinals because when you start saying, oh, they stink, they're mediocre, all that stuff, that's when they manage to bite you in the behind.
Oh, they certainly do, though I will say, trotting out their Steven Matz every fifth day, that's not necessarily something that you want to be doing. That's a little bit questionable, but I do take a look at this Cardinals team, and I think that they should be able to turn it around. But you also mentioned the Pittsburgh Pirates. When do you think regression is going to start? Because I do think that it could be right about now. We are recording this on a Tuesday evening, just as their game got started with the Tampa Bay Rays, so we don't know how that game shook out, but I do feel like this could be the beginning of that expected regression with the Pittsburgh Pirates, just because with the Pirates, I just take a look at this bunch, and without Oneil Cruz in the fold, they've actually been better without him, which was the exact opposite of what I was expecting.
Yeah, I would. Hey, look, if regression's going to hit, it's got to hit in this run where they play 12 games and 9 of them are against the AL East, Tampa, Toronto, and Baltimore, who are currently 1, 2, 3. In the AL East, and then they have 3 with Colorado. We know the Rockies are horrendous. But, look, it's a great story. Overachieving on offense in a big way. Their pitching is overachieving as well. You're right. I mean, look, Oneil Cruz went out, which is exactly what you would not have expected out of them. Look, I think when it's all said and done, if the Pirates can be in the 80s, win-wise, it's a tremendous success regardless of what happens. They're obviously not a 690 team. No one's a 690 team in all likelihood. Right now, it's a tremendous story for a franchise that has had it pretty horribly, a fan base that has had it pretty miserably since Brandon Crawford hit that salami in the wild card game back in 2014. So all things considered, pretty amazing stuff for the Buccos here. They'll regress. I thought they were one of my highest variance teams going into the year. I thought they could lose 100, and I thought if everything goes right, they could be in the low 80s. And right now, everything going right in the low 80s is in play.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's been so interesting to take a look at this Pirates team as their bullpen has been relatively solid. The biggest surprise to me out of everything that we've seen from the Pirates, Vince Velasquez has given them good starts. I'm not sure where this has come from, but Vince Velasquez has looked like a relatively solid pitcher. I certainly don't think that that's going to last through the end of the season, but it has been so interesting to look at it. Jeff Parles, who does amazing work here at VSiN, is joined to be on the podcast. And then the other team has been a big surprise in the NL Central has been the Milwaukee Brewers, who they entered into Coors Field 18-10. Now, we know about the Colorado Rockies. They've got some very demonstrative home and road splits, even though they enter into the series 9-20. You can never count out the Colorado Rockies at home. If this were a road series, I would say that the Brewers should be able to roll very easily. But what have you made on this Brewers team as well? Because with the Brewers, even though they made that Josh Hader trade, they've been very solid in the bullpen. We have seen the offense regress a little bit, but they still have been able to do a nice job with their pitching, which I think could be sustainable throughout the season.
Well, look, they've gotten amazing work out of Wade Miley, who just continues to pitch great, Greg, which is something that you don't expect for the guy with that type of stuff to pitch as well as he has over the last few years. Look, Burns had those bad starts early. Those numbers are starting to come back to where you would expect them to be. But look, all things considered, Hoops, I thought this was the clear number 2 team in the division. I didn't think they were great. I didn't think they were bad. I thought they were perfectly average going into the year. The question will be, can they get enough offense long term? They have great pitching. Their bullpen, like you said, has held up really, really well. And look, it withstood the Brandon Woodruff injury, which who knows when Brandon Woodruff is actually going to be coming back. So we will see when that ends up happening. But as of right now, I think the Brewers, they're the correct betting favorites in the NL Central. I think they end up winning the division when this is all said and done, assuming their pitching stays healthy enough.
Yeah, but I think that is the biggest key, because even without Brandon Woodruff, they've been able to have guys like a Colin Ray be able to step up for them. So we will see if the Brewers are going to be able to overcome that, and they should be getting back Woodruff relatively soon, and that would be big for them, as we do have Jeff Parles of VSiN joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And when it comes to what we're all going to be seeing on Wednesday, we do have some very fascinating games that are going down. I mentioned that Pirates versus Rays game with the Pittsburgh Pirates being now a plus 180 underdog. And I know that I was asking you about a little bit of regression for the Pittsburgh Pirates. What do you think of the prices that we have been able to get on the Pirates? Because we were able to get them relatively cheap against the Washington Nationals in the series against the Tampa Bay Rays. We've been seeing some big giant plus prices, which rightfully so. The Tampa Bay Rays have been the best team in the league, despite the fact that the schedule has been a little bit easy for them. But what do you make out of this game that we're going to be seeing on Wednesday with Mitch Keller going for the Buccos and Shane McClanahan on the bump for the Rays?
Yeah, Keller finally looks like a guy who's figured himself out, Greg. And look, he's a guy who I faded a lot over the last few years, and I'm pretty sure you did as well in spots because he was terrible for a good chunk of that time. And now part of the reason Pittsburgh's going to regress is their starting pitching is pitched over their heads. I don't know if Keller's pitched over his head. This is probably what the Pirates have expected out of him his entire tenure in Pittsburgh. So look, I think for this game on Wednesday, I'm not really interested in taking a big bloated price on the Pirates with McClanahan. And look, it's just very hard to get in front of that train that is the Tampa Bay Rays right now. They're scorching everyone. And look, the ridiculous part of it is, Greg, they've had to do this in order to be in front of the AL East because the Orioles had that amazing stretch. The Blue Jays look like a legitimate World Series contender. It's kind of backwards world there with the Yankees in last place. But when it's all said and done here, Hoops, I really do think that you are looking at a Tampa Bay team that is a legitimate World Series contender all the way through.
It's just been an AL East that has been a juggernaut since the back half of last year as well, with the Baltimore Orioles being able to emerge. And they entered into their series with the Kansas City Royals at 19-9 as well. That has been so much fun to take a look at. And this is, I think, an interesting game because the Boston Red Sox, if you count out their 4-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays, they're 16-10. Against teams not named the Tampa Bay Rays, they've been rock solid. Right now, we're finding them as right around a plus 120, plus 125 underdog against the Toronto Blue Jays on Wednesday with Alek Manoah going for the Jays and Nick Pivetta going for Boston. What do you make out of this series? Because I thought we got a really good fade spot on Monday with Jose Barrios being a big favorite for the Blue Jays, which if you know about Jose Barrios and him pitching on the road, you knew that that was an out-of-whack number. But with Alek Manoah, he's been very befuddling this year because he got off to that rough start to the season. Last few starts, he's looked much more like himself.
The problem with Manoah is he's walking a lot of guys, right, Greg? I mean, that's really the issue, is been his command so far early in this year. This is a no play for me. The Red Sox have had all sorts of problem with the Blue Jays before going into that win on Monday. Over the last few years, but I'm not interested in betting this game. The Sox have been much better than I thought they were going to be so far this year. I thought they were going to be a pretty clear-cut last-place team in the American League East. But look, I think when it's all said and done, the Yankees have all sorts of injury problems right now. And the big issue for them is what happens if these other 4 teams run away and they're 6-7 games behind everyone else when everyone gets healthy? That is one thing that if you're the Red Sox, rack up these wins right now. The problem for the Red Sox is, I mean, they're in the middle of this stretch where going through basically the end of May, the Cardinals and the Reds are really the only 2 really bad teams that they play, and the Cardinals could turn it around at any moment. It's a tough stretch for them, but a good start to it with that win on Monday night. No play for me on the Wednesday game.
I think that this is something that's very interesting to look at because I know that typically you don't want to get involved with terrible teams, and the Oakland A's are the most terrible team in the big leagues right now, but there's been a lot of success in betting overs with the Oakland A's. Currently, their starting staff, and I did the research before I did this interview with you, an 8.51 ERA. We're catching a total of a 7.5 with J.P. Sears going up against George Kirby for the Seattle Mariners. This is probably not a spot where you want to be saying, oh, yeah, let's take the plus 150 or so with the Oakland A's. But what do you make out of the total here being at a 7.5 with an Oakland A's team that they could very easily give up 10 all by themselves?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a horrible, horrible team. The Mariners have had their own issues, Greg, which you know. But look, it is one of those where they're kind of daring you to take the over, aren't they? A 7.5 with that rotation. But look, I do like Sears. Kirby's coming off an awesome start in Philadelphia where his offense just didn't do anything for him. That is my only concern. You could get a 7-0 game. You could get a 6-0, 5-1. Like, that wouldn't shock me here, but sure feel like they're begging you to take the over in this game. Greg, it's a shame I wasn't on with you yesterday because we could have previewed Miller time versus Miller time for Tuesday night.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite movies when I was in high school / college is We're the Millers. So
there we go.
that was absolutely tremendous. As trying to be on the podcast, we have Jeff Parles, who does amazing work here at VSiN. And I talked about the best over team in baseball. This is very strange. You would expect this to be the opposite. The top under team going into Tuesday in Major League Baseball has been the New York Yankees. They face off against the Cleveland Guardians with Clark Schmidt and Shane Bieber going at it with a total of 7.5. Any sort of takeaways on this game and just the Yankees in general, because till the Yankees get back Aaron Judge, it's very much a roll of the dice taking a look at these Yankees games.
Yeah, look, Greg, the Yankees offense kind of stinks right now, and their pitching's been great, especially their starting pitching, front-end-wise at least. Look, I don't have anything here. The one thing I will say, Bieber's coming off a start on Friday that went really well. His numbers, his background numbers don't look particularly good this year, Greg, but he's still finding ways to strand runners on base and getting around guys in scoring position. So you always have to wonder with a guy like that, who, again, his velocity's down. He's not striking out as many guys, but he's stranding a ton of base runners. When is the levee going to break? So this could be an opportunity to take the Yankees at home against a guy who's gotten awfully lucky so far this year with stranding runners. But I don't know if I can do it because the Yankees offense right now really is just not the same, obviously, with no Stanton, as we know, out for a while, and then Judge, who's dealing with his injury as well.
Yep, they are dealing with a lot right now. But, Jeff, we are dealing with a very loaded board for Wednesday as well. All 30 teams are going to be in play. Is there any games that we have not brought up that you are going to be taking a look at, whether it be a team or just a game in general that you're going to be looking to bet, or just maybe you want to kick back, you want to relax, you might not have a play on the game, but you just want to be able to find out a little bit more about a specific pitcher or team?
Why don't we look at the Orioles and the Royals? This is a pretty reasonable price on Baltimore here on Wednesday. I know it's Kyle Gibson. I know Greinke's been good at times, but I would look potentially at a reasonable price on the Baltimore Orioles on Wednesday.
And let me give you a really ridiculous stat. Since Zach Greinke went back to the Kansas City Royals for the second go-around, he has pitched 83 1/3 innings at home since the beginning of the 2022 season. He's given up 2 home runs at home. 2!
Sure, why not? Well, that is a great pitcher. That is a good pitcher's park, but that's still ridiculous.
And how many home runs do you think he's given up on the road? 19!
Yeah, I was going to say probably it has to be something like 15. 19 is wild, but I would have expected it to be a high number there. But look, we know how mercurial Mr. Greinke is, Greg.
Yes, he is a very much oddball guy, so we absolutely love to see those sorts of starts, and we absolutely love getting you on the podcast, Jeff. You do an amazing job taking a look at the game of baseball. You are our 5-tool player over at VSiN. You do a little bit of everything, and you do so also well. So let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Saturday and Sunday bet prep this weekend, as always, midnight, technically Saturday morning, 9 o'clock on Friday night on the West Coast, and then moving up an hour for the following day, Greg. As always, it's a fun time, and I get to deal with your boy Jason Kahn this weekend as the producer, so that's going to be a fun time.
Jason, one of the best in the business, and Jeff, one of the best in the business as well. Always great to be able to get him aboard. One of only 2 people not named Greg Peterson to ever host the Greg Peterson Experience, the other being the one and only Dan Leach. So
yes.
Yes, sir. It is always great to be able to get Jeff Parles aboard. Does amazing work here at VSiN. Big thanks to him for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Wednesday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to get Jeff Parles aboard. He does amazing work over at VSiN, taking a look at everything that we're getting in the wide world of sports. I know that he's been doing a lot of our live betting coverage the last few months, and if you're listening to VSiN on the weekends, if you're out on the West Coast, it's very late Friday and Saturday. If you're out there on the East Coast, very early Saturday and Sunday. Handles our Saturday and Sunday bet prep shows as well. So always great to get him aboard, and those shows are pretty much at the same time that the Greg Peterson Experience is, Sunday through Thursday if you're out on the West Coast. So big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at unit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So without further ado, let's dive in on this first game of 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. It is the Philadelphia Phillies. They are on the road facing off against the LA Dodgers. Aaron Nola is going to be going for the Phillies, and as of right now, it's listed as to be determined for the LA Dodgers. It does seem as though we are going to be getting the ML debut of one Gavin Stone, though, only seeing one number out there, and that's with this game being a pick'em, and that total is currently at a 9, and if we do get a 9, I am going to be taking a look at that total under. I did set my total at an 8.6, but assuming that we do get Gavin Stone out there, this would be a spot where I'd be looking at the Phillies up to a minus 126. I set them as minus 127 favorite. Now, Gavin Stone was able to do an incredible job at the minor leagues last season, and by that I mean he had a .48 ERA between Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and I think he threw a few innings for Great Lakes, the high A baseball team, but he had a .48 ERA at the minor league level. This year, not been so great. 4.4 walks per 9 innings. And overall for his minor league career, a little bit over 3 walks per 9 innings. And let's call it what it is. This is a big league level. This is Dodger Stadium in which you're making your debut. Meanwhile, he goes up against someone in Aaron Nola that always has had his ERA balloon when he's been on the road. I will say, last 2 seasons, he's actually got a higher home ERA than a road ERA. If you take a look at the last 2 seasons, a little bit north of a 3 ERA when he is on the road, more like a 3.75 ERA at home. So that's been a little bit befuddling. Last year, Aaron Nola was great with regards to his command. This year, it's been a little bit more up and down. This year, he's been giving out more like 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 4.46 ERA. It's been a little bit unlucky on balls in play, and both of these teams entered into the series in the bottom 8 in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, the Phillies are starting to turn this around as you've had some incredible innings from Jose Alvarado this far this season. Gregory Soto, after a rough start to the season, he's been solid, but he's so employed. Craig Kimbrell, Sir Anthony Dominguez does not look like himself. And then for the LA Dodgers, these guys were so good for the team last year, like Alex Vesia and company. They just have not been able to get the job done as he's got north of a 70 ERA. Phil Bickford has north of a 4 ERA. Like what I'm seeing out of Victor Gonzalez and Broussard Gratterall has been solid, but both of these teams have their issues there, and both of these offenses are a little bit different in that the LA Dodgers have not been hitting for a lot of average, but they've been able to do a nice job of leading the National League in terms of home runs. As a matter of fact, going into yesterday, hitting at 230 as a collective, Phillies 271. They're at polar opposites of the spectrum in terms of average, but in terms of Philadelphia Phillies, the only guy in the lineup yesterday with north of 4 home runs was Kyle Schwarber, and he's really the only guy in the starting lineup yesterday that had below a 260 average, sans Bryce Harper. Getting back Bryce Harper, it was his first game of the season, so small sample size there, but got guys like Nick Castellanos, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh hitting above a 300, and then on top of that, JT Realmuto, Umando Sosa. These guys have been able to move the line for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts, he's starting to pick it up. He's now hitting about a 250. You know that that's going to improve. Max Muncy with his 11 bombs has been rock solid. The big thing for this team is guys at the bottom of the fold. Guys like Miguel Rojas, Miguel Vargas, throw in there Chris Taylor. These guys hitting below the middle side of 200, that hurts. Seems like they should be getting Will Smith back in the fold, though. So this is a spot in the Nola versus Gavin Stone start, assuming that Stone does make the start, that I'd be taking a look at a 9 over, so I told it at an 8.6, so in after less, looking over 9 or higher to the under end with the Phillies. One to lay up to a minus 126 with them, 953, 954 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and they're onto the road facing up against the San Diego Padres as Seth Lugo goes for the Pods, and Luis Cessa is on the bump for the Reds. 9 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to a minus 120. The overs between even a minus 105 with the Padres. Between minus 240 and minus 265 is your number there. Between plus 215 and plus 228 is your number on the Reds. You need at least a plus 235 to be able to take a shot on the Reds. And if you are looking at that run line, you're finding it at a minus 125 with the Padres. And with the Padres, I can only lay up to about a minus 118 on this run line. So I'm going to see if we can just get a few more cents of value with the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm doing this as a very early opener. Typically, DraftKings has a little bit of a bigger straddle, so I should probably be able to get that plus 235 or so if I continue to wait and or get a little bit of a better run line price on the San Diego Padres. But that said, I do take a look at the San Diego Padres team, and it's been rough for them on offense this season. In games not played in Mexico City, they entered into the series hitting at .215 as a collective, averaging about 3.7 runs per game. Both were in the bottom 5 in the big leagues with that regard. But for the Cincinnati Reds, they entered into yesterday with 5 home runs in 13 road games. Their top home run getter and Jason Vossler is not even with the team anymore. I mean, that's how bad it's been for the Cincinnati Reds. I think that he's playing at the AAA level at this point. So, yeah, that has not been too terrific. Meanwhile, you do take a look at the Cincinnati Reds lineup, and they've got guys that are able to move the line. They don't have any power whatsoever, but DJ Friedel is hitting right around 300, along Nick Senzel, Jonathan India, 380 on base. So these are guys that are able to move the line. Just no pop whatsoever. And for the San Diego Padres, got a lot of guys that they just have not been able to move the line this season, as you've got all these guys hitting at 222 or lower in Juan Soto, Ah-Sung Kim, Trent Grisham, Austin Nola. So it's been a little bit of an issue. Matt Carpenter is starting to pick it up, 375 on base. Has only been able to supply 3 home runs. Juan Soto does have 5 home runs. You would expect a little bit more, though. Xander Bogaerts has really been the guy carrying the mail. He and Fernando Tatis Jr. entered into yesterday, hitting about a 300 along with Nelson Cruz. But this is also a San Diego Padres bullpen that it's been shaky. They entered into yesterday right around 20th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You'd expect it to be a little bit better, though Luis Garcia is starting to pick it up a little bit. Domingo Tapia, though, he's a hot mess. Sivo Wilson did have a sub-3 ERA last season, and Josh Hader is still Josh Hader. Meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Reds, shockingly, this bullpen has been relatively solid. Entered into yesterday 13th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, Fernando Cruz is currently out of the fold due to an injury. Alexis Diaz had a sub-2 ERA last season, but you've had Alex Young, Lucas Sims, pair of guys with a sub-2 ERA thus far this season. Casey Lagamina has actually been able to do a nice job in the bullpen for the team along Derek Law. So these guys are able to provide a little bit of something. The big fear that you have is Luis Cessa has a 9.55 ERA thus far this season. Now, much of this is due to the fact that he gave up 11 runs in his start against the Philadelphia Phillies. Past that, has given up 3 runs or fewer in 3 out of his other 4 starts. So there is one clear outlier here. And then when it comes to Seth Lugo, this is someone that was a bullpen piece for the Mets for many years, but he's been able to make that jump to a starter relatively solidly, and he did spend a little bit of time when he was at the minor leagues coming up as a starter, so it's not a completely foreign concept to him. He's been able to do a nice job keeping the ball in the yard, giving up 3 home runs in 27 and 2/3 innings, 6 walks in this time span. Doesn't really do one thing great, but he's a relatively solid pitcher that is able to give you some length. So at a plus 235 or greater, going to be taking a look at the Reds. Sort of my expectation at this point, but we shall see. Or if we get a minus 118 or less, going to be taking a look at the Padres on the run line. So we shall see what overnight numbers land there. But I also did set my total at 8.3, so going to be looking at that under 955, 956 on the betting board. It is the Atlanta Braves on the road facing off against the Miami Marlins. Braxton Garrett is going to be going for the Fish, and Kyle Wright hopes to be Mr. Right for the Atlanta Braves. The Braves between minus 130 to minus 135 favorites between plus 115 and plus 122. Your number on Miami, 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8, overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even to minus 110 on the 8.5. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Did set my total at 8.2. DraftKings is the only place with an 8.5. I'm seeing everywhere else 8, so what I've got available to me is the 8. I'm going to be willing to take that over. I would rather have that over anyway, even though the Miami Marlins entered into yesterday, having played just 3 of their home games over the total, but Kyle Wright just has not looked like himself thus far this season. Now, coming off of by far his best start of the season against the Miami Marlins, it was a scoreless start. He punched out 6. He only won 3 innings because I believe that was the game that he had the big giant rain delay in, but still, he looked really solid prior to the rain coming down. So you like to see that because he was actually struggling with velocity towards the beginning part of the season. It seems to be coming back from, so that is a good sign. Meanwhile, for Braxton Garrett, he's done a good job in recent years of just being able to limit walks and being able to go a little bit deeper in starts. Thus far this season, 3 walks in 22 innings, giving up just 1 home run, 2.45 ERA. This guy has been absolutely rock solid for this team. The problem for the Miami Marlins is they're a bottom 3 team in the National League in terms of being able to generate runs. Orde Soler has been able to rip the cover off the ball, but he's just not finding holes at this point. And you do have guys moving the line. Luis Arias is hitting above a 400. It's been absolutely insane what he's been able to do. And then you've got Garrett Cooper. He's been able to hit about a 275 as well, but it's the guys at the bottom like Nick Fortes, Gene Segura, along with Jacob Stallings, Savicio Garcia, hitting a 200 or lower that are absolutely killing the team. But for the Miami Marlins, bottom half of the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Dylan Floro hasn't been too bad with a 2.13 ERA, but advanced numbers show that he's doing for a little bit of regression. You're currently dealing with an injury to JT Chargois. AJ Puck has been solid, and I did like Steven Okert last season. Okert a season ago had a sub-3 ERA. It's been a little bit shaky thus far this season, though, and for the Atlanta Braves, Jesse Chavez has been an up-and-down reliever. Kirby Yates appears to be a little bit long in the tooth, but they've been able to hold down the fort without Rossio Iglesias, with Nick Anderson doing a relatively solid job. They got rid of Kenley Jansen in the offseason, which I do think was a good thing. They instead pick up Joey Jimenez, who I do like in this bullpen as well. And when it comes to the Atlanta Braves, they led the National League in terms of home runs a season ago. And you got Ronald Acuna Jr. is right now doing an amazing job getting on base, north of a 425 on base. And then you've got your main matchers towards the middle of the fold, and Matt Olson along with Sean Murphy. Murphy has been able to supply the team with 8 home runs in his first 85 at-bats, right around a 400 on base. Matt Olson, he's been able to go deep 8 times this far this season as well. Austin Riley, not necessarily been himself. You know that he's going to be able to pick it up by and large. This is a relatively solid lineup. So, interesting circumstance here. At an 8, I would be willing to take a look at the over. And with the Atlanta Braves, I set them on the money line at a minus 126 right now. We're seeing between minus 130 to a minus 135. But if you do take a look at that run line, currently you're finding the Atlanta Braves right around only about a plus 120. You're able to get more of a minus 140 price on the Miami Marlins, and I'd be willing to lay a minus 140 with the Miami Marlins getting a run and a half. That's where I'd be looking right now. Would prefer if we could just get down to more like a minus 125 or so with the Atlanta Braves, as they did open up more around a minus 140. But at current numbers, and I'm in wait-and-see mode, we'll be taking a look at that run and a half with the Miami Marlins to go along with the 8 over. 957, 958 on the betting board. It is the Chicago Cubs. They hit the road. They're playing against the Washington Nationals, as you've got to be determined on the bump for the Washington Nationals going up against Marcus Stroman. And this is a game that's currently off the board. We went to Fangraphs for this projection, and right now they're projecting Erasmo Ramirez going for the Washington Nationals, which that's pretty much code for you're probably going to be getting some sort of bullpen game here. And assuming it's Ramirez and or some sort of bullpen game against Marcus Stroman, I set the Cubs as a minus 183 favorite. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 115 on the run line, and my total in an 8.8, where an 8.5 or less looking at the over, a 9 or higher, I'd be taking a look at the under for Marcus Stroman. This guy has been complete magic on the road last 2 seasons. Ever since he has come to the Chicago Cubs, he's got a sub-2 ERA on the road, giving up less than 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Opponents are hitting less than a 225 off of on the road. He has been solid. Washington Nationals bullpen has been okay. It's not been great. It's not been terrible. And Erasmo Ramirez has not necessarily been too terrific. This is a Nationals bullpen that they rank 19th in the big leagues going into Tuesday in terms of ERA. Cubs relatively on par with that. At 16th, would not be surprised if you see a little bit of Corey Abbott here. I recognize he did pitch on Monday, but he's someone that's able to give you a little bit of length. If it is indeed Erasmo Ramirez, he's been really the long guy for the Washington Nationals in recent years. I recall last season he did see a couple of starts, so that's something that would be very logical, but he's posting up a 5.40 ERA thus far this season, and then you got a few guys like A. Mason Thompson, Carl Edwards Jr. They've been able to provide sub-2 ERAs, and both of these guys I think can give you multiple innings, so it's pretty much going to be the piecemeal approach for the Washington Nationals. The real big thing for the Washington Nationals is this team has absolutely no power whatsoever. They entered into Tuesday dead last in the big leagues in terms of total home runs. As you got one guy with north of 2 home runs. That'd be Jameer Candelario, who's been able to supply 4. You do have guys who are able to get on base for you. Joey Meneses is sitting about at 275, and then you got Michael Chavis, Lane Thomas, Keibert Ruiz, Victor Robles, all between about a 263 to a 269, and all these guys have been able to provide between about a 325 to a 345 on base, so not too shabby there. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Cubs, they do lead the National League in terms of on-base percentage. Everyone that had at least 33 at-bats going into the game on Tuesday was hitting at least a 255, aside from Patrick Wisdom, who is the man that has 10 home runs on this team. So, been very rock solid on that front. Ian Happ, Dansby Swanson, both above a 400 on base going into yesterday as well. Not a lot of power out of either of these guys, but they certainly have been able to move the line. Cody Bellinger, 7 home runs thus far this season. And for the Cubs, not a great bullpen, not a bad bullpen. Michael Fulmer has been a little bit less than trustworthy for this team, but been able to get some good innings out of someone like it, Albert Alzolay. Mark Leiter Jr. has been amazing in this bullpen with a sub-2 ERA. Now, Julian Merriweather is someone that you don't want to trust him, but Marcus Stroman should be able to lend quite a bit of length. So this is a circumstance that, with regards to my handicap, assuming it's some sort of bullpen game for the Washington Nationals, made the Cubs more around a minus 183, minus 184 on the money line, willing to lay up to a minus 115 on the run line with them. And then in after less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, 959, 960 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers hit the road to face off against the Colorado Rockies as Kyle Freeland is going to be going for the Rocks and Eric Lauer is on the bump for the Brew Crew. And total on this game is between 11.5 and 12. On the 12, under is minus 120. The over is even on the 11.5. Over is minus 115. And the under, it is minus 105. With the Crew, they're anywhere between minus 115 to minus 120 favorites. Anywhere between minus 105 and plus 108 is your number on the Colorado Rockies. Made the Brewers a minus 132 favorite, so I'm going to be taking a look at them on the money line, and I did set my total at 11.6. I would rather have the 12 under rather than an 11.5 over personally. I do like the way that Eric Lauer has been able to pitch. Now, the one trepidation that you do have with Eric Lauer is that he has been significantly worse on the road than he has been at home in recent years. Last year, 4.76 road ERA compared to a 2.56 ERA at home, but I do think that he's going to be able to turn it around now. For Eric Lauer, he is coming off of a rough start against the Detroit Tigers where he gives up 4 runs in 3 innings, and he's been significantly better on the road this year than he has been at home. So he's on a flipper-rooney year, giving up 2 runs or fewer in each out of his 3 road starts. Now you're going to Coors Field, and that's always difficult. That's why Kyle Freeland has an ERA that's about a point higher for his career at home rather than on the road. But for Freeland, he's a bend but don't break pitcher. He does a good job of being able to induce some soft contact, though he has given up 7 home runs in 33 and a third innings thus far this season, but he doesn't give up necessarily a whole lot of walks for his career, about 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, and it's backed up by a bullpen that still ranks in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, but they still do a relatively solid job. Brent Suter, along with Brad Hand, have been good additions for this bullpen. They get back Daniel Bard, so I mean, considering the circumstances, bullpen has not been too bad, but they go up against a Brewers team that does have a top 5 bullpen in terms of ERA. They get Jake Cousins back from the injured list. Peter Strzelecki has been able to do a solid job along Joel Payamps of providing a sub-3 ERA, which has been massive because when it comes to this Brewers lineup, it hasn't been great. It hasn't been terrible. You continue to have Christian Yelich be a big, giant waste of money for the Milwaukee Brewers. Not the world's worst bat, but you expect someone that was a former MVP making all this money to be having more than 3 home runs, sitting in that pocket about a 225 entering into yesterday, but all about getting some deep balls out of guys like Brian Anderson, Willie Adames, both guys with 5 home runs in their first 100 at-bats, both guys hitting between about a 242, 255. Rowdy Tellez has been able to give you 8 home runs. Now, we've seen the rookies and Bryce Turang along Joey Weimer really start to dip down. Both of these guys are now hitting a sub-230, but Jesse Winker has been able to move the line for this team. And then when it comes to Colorado Rockies, they always have those very demonstrative home and road splits. As the Colorado Rockies last year averaged 3 runs per game on the road, while everyone else averaged at least 3.4, but they led the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. That's what to expect. And CJ Cron, you go back to last year, he had 29 home runs, 22 of them came at home. Now, for the Colorado Rockies, they were hitting as a collective about a 285 at home entering into yesterday. They get back Randall Grichuk. That should be a nice cog for this lineup. You have seen quite a few guys at the bottom, like Harold Castro, like Brenton Doyle, struggle, but having Chris Bryant actually out there and healthy has been able to help this team out. You've got Ryan McMahon, who for his career has always been rock solid at home, and thus far this season at home has been with north of 300 as well. So I do think that you're going to be able to get some runs, but I would take a 12 under in this spot because I do think that we are seeing Eric Lauer starting to come into his own a little bit. His swing and miss stuff has not been supreme, but it's been relatively solid. And with this Milwaukee Brewers team, they just back him up with a little bit of a better bullpen. And the Brewers, they've been playing some lower scoring games because of their bullpen as well. So taking a look at the 12 under, with the Brewers willing to lay up to a minus 131 with them. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Cleveland Guardians at the road face off against the New York Yankees as Clark Schmidt is going to be going for the Yankees, and Shane Bieber is going for the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians between minus 137 to minus 145. Favorites between plus 120 and plus 132. Your number on the Yankees. 7.5 is the total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 115. Unders between minus 105 to a minus 110. And with the Yankees, I did need at least a plus 131 to take a shot here. Seeing a plus 132, I am going to be willing to fire in. We were talking about this with Jeff Parles. Shane Bieber overall has some relatively solid numbers, but his strikeout numbers are way down from what they've been in the past. When he won the Cy Young in 2020, he had north of 14 punch-outs per 9 innings, and so far this year, that is down to fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's done a good job being able to hold down the fort since the beginning of the 2022 season in terms of the walks. He's given up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, so command is still there, but it's not getting the same swings and misses. And for the Cleveland Guardians, last season they were one of the top bullpens in the big leagues, and they still back them up with one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all of baseball. Going into yesterday, number 9 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and I do think that Bieber completely outguns Clark Schmidt, but the New York Yankees, number 2 in terms of bullpen ERA, entering into the day on Tuesday, as you've really gotten it from everyone, even someone like a Jimmy Cordero, Albert Abreu. These are guys posting up a sub-275 ERA. The one guy for the New York Yankees you can't trust it at this point is Clay Holmes, who he completely gas-canned that game on Monday, but when it comes to Clark Schmidt, what you really need for him is to just give you 5 innings and to keep you in the game. And the good news is he goes up against the Cleveland Guardians lineup that entered into yesterday dead last in the American League in terms of total home runs. Now, with Clark Schmidt, it has been a pretty dreadful year for him, giving up 7 home runs in 25 innings. Swing and miss stuff has honestly been really good. He's been able to get about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he has also allowed at least 3 runs in each out of his last 5 starts. Now, I will say there was a start against the Toronto Blue Jays in which all 3 of the runs they gave up were unearned, so he was a victim of that, and he's only given up 3 walks over the course of his last 4 starts, but has been getting very unlucky on balls in play. But this is a Cleveland Guardians team that, as well, they're just not moving the line the way that they did a season ago. They entered into yesterday hitting at 229 as a collective, as last season you had all these guys in Will Brandon, Andres Jimenez, Ahmed Rosario, Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, hitting at least a 270 for this team. Only guys hitting above, I would say, about a 260 for this team this season have been Kwan and Ramirez. So that has been a big, giant issue. Not a single guy on the roster with at least 4 home runs as well. And for the New York Yankees, as we know, this offense is having their woes. You're currently without Aaron Judge, and that's a big, stinking deal for the team. Now, the good news is they did get Harrison Bader back yesterday, and ever since Harrison Bader has gotten into a New York Yankees uniform, that has been good, but you had 2 guys in the starting lineup yesterday with at-bats that were hitting above a 250. DJ LeMahieu along with Anthony Rizzo, and Rizzo does a good job of being able to provide some boom. You need the guys at the bottom to be able to pick it up. Willie Calhoun, Anthony Volpe, Aaron Hicks, the much maligned Aaron Hicks have all been hitting a 220 or lower for this team. With the Cleveland Guardians, you still have had a relatively solid bullpen, even with James Karinchak acting up. You've had Nick Sandlin along with Eli Morgan, Emmanuel Clase, Angel de los Santos, all guys that had a sub-3.2 ERA last season. Be relatively solid for the team, sans Sandlin, but I do think that the New York Yankees are going to be able to get to Shane Bieber. I do think that he is doing for a little bit of negative regression and getting north of plus 130. I'm going to be willing to take a look at this number. It is still Yankee Stadium. The calendar is now flipped from April to May, so some of those balls are going to start flying out a little bit more as well. And Clark Schmidt, let's call it what it is. I do think that he's going to yield a few runs himself, so I did set my total a little bit north of an 8. I'm going to be willing to take it over with the top under team in all of baseball in the New York Yankees, and we'll take them at a north of plus 130 number as well. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Toronto Blue Jays hit third face-off against the Boston Red Sox. Nick Pivetta goes for the Red Sox, and Alek Manoah is on the bump for the Blue Jays, and the Jays find themselves as favorites of anywhere between minus 135 and minus 145, between plus 120 and plus 126, your number on Boston. 9 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is anywhere between even a minus 110. I did set my total at a 9.2. I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over in this ordeal, and with the Blue Jays, minus 135 is the absolute max I am willing to lay with them, but I am willing to lay the minus 135. With Alek Manoah, was a really rough start to the season for him, but he has come back with a vengeance in his last 2 starts, giving up a combined 2 runs in north of 12 innings. He has been giving out a few more walks than you'd like to see, as last year, when he was able to be an all-star, he did a very solid job with right around 2 walks per 9 innings. This year, he's north of 5 walks per 9 innings. That is an issue, but he's been able to cut down on those a little bit more. A combined 5 walks in his last 12 innings, which that doesn't sound like much, but his previous 3 starts, he had given up 4+ walks in every one of those starts. So he has been able to do a little bit of a better job with regards to his command, and Nick Pivetta has always been all over the place as well. Ever since he's gotten to Boston, right around 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Thus far this season, 11 walks in 24 2/3 innings, and he's been giving up quite a bit of hard contact as well. 3+ runs surrendered in 4 out of his last 5 starts, giving up 5 home runs in 24 2/3 innings. And this ballpark is just not built for him, as Nick Pivetta, ever since he has gone to Boston, has had north of a half a point higher on his ERA when he has been at home rather than when he's been on the road. Now, he is backed up by a Boston Red Sox lineup that entered into yesterday number 3 in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. It is a little bit of a top-heavy lineup, as you do have guys like Ramiel Tapia, Rob Refsnyder, that have not been great. Tristan Casas sitting below at 225, but we've seen someone like a Connor Wong, Kike Hernandez, guys that really got off to rough starts of the season. Now that they're hitting right around a 240, fortifies this lineup. Christian Arroyo, he's now hitting above a 250 for this bunch. And then at the top, Alex Verdugo, hitting well above a 300. Masataka Yoshida got things really rolling with that 8th inning in Milwaukee a little bit over a week ago. He's now got north of a 370 on base. Justin Turner down for what? He's able to supply some power as well. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they actually entered into the series tied for 18th in terms of total home runs. You know that this is going to turn around. You've got a trio of guys: Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman, all hitting above a 300. Bichette entered into yesterday with 7 home runs, Guerrero and Chapman with 5, and really nobody else on the team has been able to give you a lot of power. This is going to go northward. Dalton Varsho, Danny Jansen, Kavan Biggio, George Springer, these guys hitting at 225 or lower. They're going to be able to pick it up a little bit more. Whit Merrifield hitting above a 300. For the Blue Jays, the big concern has been some of the less than trustworthy bullpen pieces. Zach Pop has north of a 4 ERA. Anthony Bass has been terrible. Yimi Garcia has been terrible. Meanwhile, Jordan Romano has been a little bit shaky. It's really been Eric Swanson, who they picked up from Seattle, has been very good for the team. And for the Boston Red Sox, they rank in the top half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I don't know if this is at all sustainable, though, as you've been able to get really good innings recently out of Brennan Bernardino, someone that they decided to kick the tires on. You still have a few guys that have been absolutely terrible, like Ryan Brazier, Richard Blyer, Caleb Ort. All these guys have north of a 6 ERA. John Schreiber is someone that I've always liked in this bullpen as well, but I do think that you are going to be seeing quite a bit of power. I do think that Alek Manoah is starting to return to being the Alek Manoah that we all know and love, so I'm going to be willing to lay up to a -135 with the Blue Jays. I do think that their offense is going to be able to get online. Boston, they've been supplying boom all season long, so I did set my total at a 9.2, looking at the 9 over, and I'm going to be taking a look at Toronto laying up to a -135, 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins. They throw a face-off against the Chicago White Sox. Dylan Cease is going to be going for the Sox, and Louis Varland is on the bump for Minnesota. The White Sox are a -130 favorite, +110 is your number on Minnesota. Dylan's game is 8 over and under, both at -110, and I did set my number at a -134. The White Sox have been absolutely terrible, but I'm going to be willing to lay up to a -133 with them. With the Chicago White Sox, been a case where they just haven't been able to get a lot of length out of their starters. As a result, his bullpen has been absolutely dreadful. North of a 6 ERA entering into yesterday. Bottom 3 team in the big leagues with that regard, as you really haven't had anyone be able to supply good innings in the bullpen. Like Gregory Santos has been legitimately like your best reliever thus far this season. The only guy on the roster with a sub-3 ERA entering into yesterday. For Dylan Cease, it's just so important that he's able to lend some length. And I do think that he's going to look himself in the mirror and realize he can't continue to give up 4.5 walks per 9 innings. His strikeout numbers are down a little bit from last season, but still getting about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's going to get the job done every single time, but he's given up 3+ runs and now 3 out of his last 4 starts. Now, I will say this as well. He has given up, I believe it's like 4 unearned runs in his last 4 starts. It actually might be 5, but he has been victimized by the fact that his defense has been all sorts of sucky this year. Meanwhile, you've got a Minnesota Twins team that they don't do a really good job of being able to move the line. Like, they were shut out for much of the game yesterday. You got a pair of guys in Joey Gallo and Byron Buxton that entered into yesterday, hitting 7 home runs, and got a few guys that are hitting in that neighborhood about a 235 to a 245. Joey Gallo, Trevor Lawrence, Jose Miranda, Max Kepler, but Carlos Correa looks very broken at this point. Kyle Farmer along with Eduardo Julian, when they've been out there, they've been having a little bit of a tough time moving the line as well. Getting back Ore Polanco, I think, has been massive for this lineup. And the Chicago White Sox, they just need any breath of life that they can get in this lineup. Jake Burger has been able to provide a little bit of that. He's got 6 home runs over the last 3 weeks. That has been nice. Andrew Benintendi, he's hitting about a 280 as well. But this White Sox team is one of the least disciplined at the plate in all the big leagues. Losing Tim Anderson, losing Yoan Moncada for the time being has really taken a toll on them as well. But we've had Andrew Vaughn, along with Gavin Sheets, provide north of a 350 on base. I do think that the White Sox are going to start to turn around a little bit with their bullpen. And Dylan Cease, even though he's been a little bit shaky, I still think that he's able to outduel Louis Varland, who hasn't been bad when he's gotten starts. This is going to be the 7th start of his career. 3.94 ERA up at the big league show, as he's done a good job with his command. When he's had his starts at the major league level, 7 walks in 32 innings. Not a guy that is going to go out there and get you a whole bunch of strikeouts or anything like that. But you know what? I do think that he's going to be able to do a formidable job of holding things down. It's a Twins lineup that they themselves have been far from terrific, so I set my total at 7.8, getting an 8. Going to be taking a look at the under, and willing to lay up to a minus 133 with the White Sox. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles hit the road face-off against the Kansas City Royals. Zach Greinke goes for the Royals, and Kyle Gibson goes for the Orioles. And the Orioles are between minus 142 and minus 150 favorites, and between plus 130 and plus 135 your number on the Royals. 9 is the total. Over and under are both at minus 110. I set the Orioles at a minus 143 on the money line. If you're taking a look at their run line, you're going to be getting that anywhere between a plus 110 to a plus 120. I need at least a plus 120 to take a shot here. I would rather play it safe. I would rather take that minus 142 that I'm still seeing on the Orioles money line, as they did open up at a minus 140. Money is starting to come in on them, and rightfully so. And I mentioned this with our good buddy in Jeff Parles for Zach Greinke. Ever since he has gotten to Kansas City, he has pitched 83 1/3 innings at home. His ERA at home has been relatively solid. It's been right around about a little bit above 2, and he's given up 2 home runs in 83 1/3 innings. I do think that he is due in for a little bit of negative regression. Meanwhile, you take a look at what he's done on the road, and he has been just a disaster show. He's given up about 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. His road ERA is north of 5, so I mean, it's been the best of times, and it's been the worst of times for Zach Greinke based on where he's been pitching. Meanwhile, for Kyle Gibson, he's been pretty equal across the board. 3.93 ERA. He does a solid job not giving up a lot of walks, right around 2.7, 2.8 walks per 9 innings, a little bit over a home run per 9 innings. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but he gets a functional amount of strikeouts. 3 runs of fear surrendered in 4 of his last 5 starts. But what I think really puts the Orioles over the top, the fact that they entered into yesterday number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got so many guys who are able to sling it for this bullpen. Mike Baumann along with Brian Baker both have been able to supply a sub-250 ERA. Danny Columbia has been absolutely amazing. Ciano Perez has not necessarily been himself, but by and large, this is a good bullpen going up against the Kansas City Royals team that they both are one of the worst bullpens that you're going to find in the big leagues, as they've got 2 guys that are able to go out there and are able to give you good innings. Aroldis Chapman, Scott Barlow, both of these guys have done a nice job all season long holding down the fort, as Chapman has actually been giving you a sub-2 ERA. Scott Barlow, his ERA is approaching 6, so and that's a big reason why you got the Royals currently in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Entering into yesterday, it was a 5.26 to be exact. We've had Jose Cuas be all over the place. Taylor Clark has north of a 5 ERA. Josh Samont, since he's returned, has not necessarily been too bad, but with the Royals as well, you just don't have much offense with this team. They were able to put a few runs upon the board yesterday, and you do have a pair of guys in Vinny Pasquantino and Juan Bobby Witt Jr. They'll be able to supply 5 home runs, but going into yesterday, 20 home runs in 29 games while hitting as a collective a 220, as they entered yesterday with Nicky Lopez, Jackie Bradley Jr., Hunter Dozier, MJ Melendez, Michael Massey, and Nate Eaton, all hitting a 200 or lower. Meanwhile, for the Baltimore Orioles, this team entered into yesterday in the top 7 in the big leagues. In terms of runs per game, you've really seen this team take hold with the new rules, as Cedric Mullins along with Ori Mateo combined 21 stolen bases going into yesterday, most of any duo in baseball. Ryan Mountcastle, it's been a little bit up and down with regards to his offense, but has still been able to give you 6 home runs, only getting about a 245, but Jorge Mateo, I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's hitting a 347. You've been able to have Adley Rutschman give you a 400 on base. Austin the Say's kid, he's hitting above a 300 as well. So I do like what I'm seeing out of this Orioles team. I think that Kyle Gibson is going to be able to do a solid job, and Zach Greinke is overdue for regression at home. This is a circumstance where I'm willing to lay the minus 142 with the Baltimore Orioles. I just don't think that the Kansas City Royals are going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain when it comes to being able to hit this total. I do think that Greinke does an okay job at home, but I do think that this bullpen, it is going to let them down. So I'm willing to take the Orioles on the money line and set my total at 8.6 out of 9, looking at the under. Now we go to my DK Nation write-up pick. This is 969, 970 on the betting board. The Oakland A's play OC Seattle Mariners. George Kirby is going to be going for the Mariners, and JP Sears is on the bump for Oakland, and Oakland is anywhere between a plus 145 to a plus 152 underdog. Between minus 165 to a minus 170 is your number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. My write-up pick is going to be on the over. Even if you get an 8 when it's all said and done, I'm willing to go over. I set my total at an 8.4. Here's why. With the Oakland A's, their starting rotation has an 8.51 ERA. 8.51 among guys with at least 4 starts this year. JP Sears has their best ERA at a paltry 6.23, giving up 2.3 home runs per 9 innings. He has given up at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. This team is terrible. You do have George Kirby, who's been able to do a nice job of putting opponents on lockdown, giving up between 1 and 2 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, giving up just 1 home run in 30 and 2/3 innings, and a strikeout to walk rate of 12. That leads qualifying American League starters, but you also do have a Oakland A's bullpen that, on top of them having the worst starting rotation in the big leagues, they also are dead last in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got a Seattle Mariners team that have been in the top 10 all season long in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Andres Munoz being out of the fold. You've been able to get good innings out of so many of these guys, as Penn Murphy, along with Paul Sewald, they were able to bolster a sub-3 ERA a season ago. Gabe Spear, Taylor Saucedo, Justin Topa, they all have been able to give you a sub-2 ERA in this bullpen as well. And for the Oakland A's, they're hoping that Domingo Acevedo is fixed. He's had a really rough start to the season. Richard Lovelady honestly might be your best reliever at this point. I believe that he went 6 or 7 innings scoreless. Sam Moll's been able to give you a 3.50 ERA, but for the Oakland A's, they have been able to get their offense going a little bit more. We're averaging about 5.4 runs per contest in their last 7 games prior to Tuesday, so things have been picking up a little bit more on that front now. I will say with Oakland, they hit significantly better when they're on the road rather than when they are at home, as the Coliseum just does not bode very well for hitters in general. You've got a lot of foul ball room, so some of these balls that will be going into the stands and other stadiums, they are being caught in this one. You've got the marine layer out during the nighttime as well, which is partially why you are seeing such a low total, but Brent Rooker has been a man possessed. 9 home runs, hitting a 353 entering into yesterday. Shea Langolaris has been able to give you 6 home runs. You don't have a lot of guys that are moving the line, as Langolaris, who I just mentioned, Jace Peterson, Tony Kemp, Mendy Diaz, all these guys are hitting at 222 or lower, but you've had Sergio Ruiz move the line, 11 stolen bases, hitting at 255. Meanwhile, for Seattle, it's really been all about Jared Kelenic. 7 home runs, hitting above a 300 going into yesterday, but it's a Mariners team that, as a collective, going into yesterday, they were hitting about a 219. That is the bottom 5 mark in the big leagues. Cal Raleigh has been able to give the team 5 home runs, which has been helpful. And then you've been able to have Ty France and Eugenio Suarez along with Taylor Trammell in between a 243 to a 250 entering into yesterday. But for the Oakland A's, they just are so set with their pitching that I could easily see them giving up 8+ runs all by themselves. And it is an Oakland offense that has been able to pick it up just a tad. I was willing to lay up to a minus 125 on the Seattle Mariners run line. I'm currently finding that at even money. I set them north of $2 on the money line, $2.12 to be exact. So I'm going to be taking a look at the Seattle Mariners laying a run and a half, but right up pick here with how bad this Oakland A's pitching has been. Going to be taking a look at the over. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they're going to be hitting the road face-off against the Texas Rangers. Andrew Heaney goes for the Rangers, and we get the debut of Brandon Pfaadt for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now, I'm seeing a number at DraftKings, and there is no way this number is correct. I am right now seeing the Rangers as even money, and I'm seeing the Arizona Diamondbacks at minus 120 with a total of 8.5 shaded down to the under. if you have this number available to you, take the Rangers on the money line. I set them at a minus 162 and made my total an 8.6. So I'd be taking a look at an 8.5 or less to the over, a 9 or higher. I'd be taking a look at the under. For Mr. Fott, he did a solid job at the minor league level. He's been playing in Reno, pitching in Reno, posting up an ERA like he did last season of a 2.63. That's actually very impressive. Thus far this season, 3.91 ERA in Reno, giving up about 2 walks per 9 innings. And throughout his minor league career, about 2 walks per 9 innings, 11 punch-outs per 9. He does give up the deep ball, giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings. And you give credit where credit is due. This is a guy that played college baseball over at Bellarmine, so he's been able to work his way up, but now he has to make his first start at the big league level. You've got all sorts of question marks as to the sort of length that he's going to be able to end, as at the minor league level you would typically go about 5 to 6 innings, so I don't think that it's going to be anything terrible there, but goes up against someone in Andrew Heaney that has always had his problems giving up the deep ball since it became part of last season, north of 1.5 home runs per 9 innings surrender, but has been a good swing and miss guy, getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings thus far this season. I do think that he's going to be able to hold down an Arizona Diamondbacks team that has been solid in terms of batting average, has not been so solid in terms of being able to get hard contact in general, as you've had Pavin Smith along Josh Rojas hit above a 270 for the team, Lourdes Gurriel as well. They actually just picked up off the strike keep Dominic Fletcher. He should be a nice outfielder for the team. Gabriel Moreno has been able to about 300 as well, but Christian Walker was your main matcher for the team last season. He's got about 4 home runs thus far this season. Corbin Carroll has been solid being able to move the line, and I just don't think that Geraldo Perdomo is going to continue to hit a 383 like he entered into yesterday with. Meanwhile, for the Texas Rangers, a top 3 team in terms of runs per game. You've had Jonah Heim, Ezekiel Duran, Travis Janikowski hit between about a 300 to a 305 entering into yesterday. Josh Young, in my opinion, has been the best rookie in the American League thus far this season. 6 home runs, hitting at 270 entering into yesterday, so that's been good. And the Texas Rangers just bolster a better bullpen as well. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, they entered into yesterday outside the top 20 in terms of bullpen ERA. They pick up Miguel Castro along with Andrew Chafin, but you haven't been able to get a lot out of Chafin. Meanwhile, Miguel Castro has been solid. I do like Kyle Nelson. Sub-1 ERA thus far this season. Joe Mantiply coming back is big, but for the Texas Rangers, Jose Leclerc, Brock Burke, Jonathan Hernandez all had a sub-3 ERA. In the bullpen lines here, Josh Saboris has been incredible with about a 1.08 ERA. Will Smith, he's willing to get jiggy with it as well. Even with the Texas Rangers dealing with the injury to Corey Seager, I do think that they are the better team in this ordeal. So this is a circumstance where I made the Rangers a minus 162 favorite. Would be willing to take their run line at a plus 120 or greater, and 8.5 or less looking at the over 9 or higher to the under. 973, 974 on the betting board. It is the San Francisco Giants. They hit the road. They're facing off against the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez is going to be going for the Astros, and Logan Webb is on the bump for the Giants. And the Giants are pretty sizable underdogs. You're going to be getting them anywhere between a plus 150 to a plus 160. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 172 to a minus 180 is your number on San Francisco. 8 is the total. Under is between minus 115 and minus 120. The over is anywhere between even and minus 105. Seeing some 7.5s out there as well now. On the 7.5 over, that is minus 120, and the under is even. Did set my total at 7.9. Mostly have access to 8s, and at the 8, I'd be willing to take a look at this total under. But with regards to the San Francisco Giants, I would need at least a plus 164 to take a shot here. If you're taking a look at that Astros run line, find that anywhere between plus 125 to a plus 130. Willing to take that plus 130 run line with the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez has always been magnificent at being able to limit the hard contact. I will say this about Valdez. He actually had an ERA that was right around a point higher when he was at home rather than when he was on the road a season ago. And he does give up the occasional free pass, but he's really worked on that this season. This season, it's been more around 2 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, for Logan Webb, command is there. 5 walks in 37 and a third innings. He's just been hit relatively hard. He's backed up by one of the worst defenses you're going to find in the big leagues, as he has been victimized with 3 unearned runs already in the month of April. When it comes to Logan Webb, he's always had a tough time on the road. He's got an ERA that's more than a full point higher when he's on the road rather than at home for the entirety of his career. Now, he is backed up by a Giants team that was the only team in the National League entering into yesterday hitting more than 2 home runs per game when they are on the road, and it's just really balanced power when it comes to the San Francisco Giants, as Lamonte Wade Jr. along with J.D. Davis entered into yesterday with 6 home runs. Blake Snell, Mike Yastrzemski with 5, and then Dario Estrada, David Villar, Michael Conforto, Wilmer Flores, Brandon Crawford all have 4. They don't necessarily do the world's greatest job of hitting for average, although Dario Estrada hitting about a 333, Mike Yastrzemski is able to about a 290, but I do think that they are going to be able to supply a little bit of boom here, but going up against Guy Valdez, that since the beginning part of the 2023 season, it's given up just 0.65 home runs per 9 innings. That's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, and you go up against an Astros bullpen that they were last year number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. Seth Martinez, Ryan Stanek, Brian Abreu, Ryan Presley, all these guys posted up a sub-3.2 ERA last season. We have seen a little bit of a fall-off this far this season, but by fall-off, I mean the Astros entered into yesterday number 5 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, with guys like Hector Neris and company being able to do a solid job. Meanwhile, for the San Francisco Giants, this bullpen has been a complete disaster. 6.40 was their ERA going into yesterday. That is 28th out of 30 teams, and that is the worst mark in the National League. As Camilo Doval, Scott Alexander, they'd be able to end some solid innings, but so many guys like Jacob Junis, Sean Manaea, these are guys that they sort of alternate from starting to being long relievers. Neither of these guys have been able to do the job. You've got someone like Cole Waits that is now in the bullpen. That is not necessarily what you want to see, man. For the Houston Astros, Alex Bregman, after one of his patented slow Alex Bregman starts, but Mauricio Dubon has done a very solid job of being a reach base. He's been hitting above a 300 for this team, along Christian Julks, who I've been very impressed by. Jake Myers, Kyle Tucker, they're able to get on base. And for Tucker, along with Yordan Alvarez, both of these guys have been able to combine for about 12 home runs this far this season as well. So I do think that the Houston Astros should be able to take it to the San Francisco Giants. This is a circumstance where at an 8 or higher, I'm going to be taking a look at the under. And when it comes to the Astros, we'll take that plus 130 run line on them. 975, 976 on the betting board. It is the Tampa Bay Rays playing host to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos. Meanwhile, one Shane McClanahan is going to be on the bump for the Rays, and the Rays, very sizable favorites, anywhere between minus 205 and minus 215, between plus 180 and plus 185, your number on the Buccos. 7 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. Did set by total of 6.9. I'm going to be willing to take an under in this ordeal, but with the Rays, set them at a minus 242. I was willing to go up to a minus 125 on the run line. We're finding that anywhere between even money and plus 110, and I am going to be willing to fire in there. With the Tampa Bay Rays, they right now lead the MLB in darn near every offensive category. You got Randy Arozarena along with Wander Franco, who have been absolutely incredible of being 5-tool guys. They're able to hit for power. They're able to hit for average. You've got darn near everyone other than Manuel Margot has been doing their part this season. You've been able to just have everyone 1 through 9 slugging it out. Even someone like a Taylor Walls, who was terrible last year. All these guys have been just straight fire for this team. Meanwhile, you've got a Pittsburgh Pirates bunch that, even without Oniel Cruz, they've been able to do a very nice job of holding down the fort themselves. Brian Reynolds, we've seen the power numbers really start to diminish. It feels like he's been stuck on 5 home runs for about 2.5 weeks at this point, but he's still hitting for north of a 315 average. You've been able to have a lot of guys like a Jack Swiniski, Carlos Santana, Rodolfo Castro, Topico Americano hit between about a 260 to 275, as well as Swiniski has been able to give you some nice power. Andrew McCutchen has been able to give you 5+ home runs, doing a solid job of reaching base as well. And this is a Pirates bullpen that entered into the series in the top 10 in terms of ERA. David Bednar has been one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Sub-2 ERA, Dwayne Underwood Jr. has been rock solid along with Robert Stevenson, and they're currently missing one of their better long guys in Chase Young as of right now. Colin Holderman has been okay, but for the Tampa Bay Rays, this is a team that ranks in the top 4 in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got just so many good arms, and you've got so much versatility with all these guys, as Pete Fairbanks has yet to allow a run this season. Meanwhile, Jason Adam, he has been posting up a sub-2 ERA along with Colin Pouchet, Ryan Thompson. These guys have all been able to do an amazing job, and then you've got the man, Shane McClanahan, who has been just amazing for the Tampa Bay Rays team. Actually does have an ERA that's about 0.3 points higher at home rather than on the road for the entirety of his career, but I do think they should be able to go out there and shut down this Pittsburgh Pirates team. 2.12 ERA. He's getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowed 3 home runs, 34 innings. Walks have been a little bit higher, a little bit north of 3 walks per 9 innings this far this season, but on par with Mitch Keller, who's been giving out 3 walks per 9 innings as well. But Keller, he's been able to pick up a little bit of velocity. He's been able to do an incredible job job of utilizing that for strikeout numbers. He's up to right around 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. I like the way that he has been able to show himself thus far this season. It's a relatively pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Tampa Bay. So here at a 7, I'm going to be taking a look at the under. I do think that McClanahan shuts down the Pittsburgh Pirates. I do think that the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to start to see a little bit of regression here. So going to be taking a look at the Tampa Bay Rays on the run line. I set their run line more around a minus 125, and here at the 7, taking a look at the under. We've got a double dip here. 977, 978 we're going to do, along with 981, 982 on the betting board. It is the New York Mets, and they're going to be playing against the Detroit Tigers, as we have to throw away the numbers from yesterday because we've seen a little bit of a flipperoonie with regards to how things are going to be going about it, as Joey Lucchesi is going to be going for the Mets in Game 1, and Joey Wentz is going for the Tigers in Game 1, and the projected starter from yesterday for the Tigers and Michael Lorenzen is now going to be facing off against Max Scherzer. When this was listed on the board, the Lucchesi versus Lorenzen start from yesterday, you were seeing the New York Mets hovering more around a minus 150 to a minus 155 favorite with a total of 9 shaded up to the over. And when it was supposed to be Scherzer going up against the man in Joey Wentz, you were finding that number with the Mets being right around minus 190 to minus $2, plus 160 to plus 170 was your number on the Tigers, with a total of 8 in most places, with the juice at a minus 120. These numbers are going to be reformulated in the AM, but that's just a little bit of background there. But in terms of what we're going to see in Game 1, that's actually going to be 981, 982, and Lucchesi versus Wentz. I set the Mets as a minus 166 favorite. We'll take them at a minus 102 or less on the run line, and we might total an 8. I really don't think that we are going to be getting an 8 in this spot, but if we do get an 8, it'll probably be shaded up to the over, which means that if I'm getting like an even juice on the under, I'd be taking a look there. Obviously, 8.5 or higher, we'd be taking a look at that under. But with Joey Lucchesi, I really like what I've seen out of him. He spent pretty much all of last year injured. He has resurfaced 12 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs, so that has been rock solid. Meanwhile, you take a look on the flip side for the Detroit Tigers, and Joey Wentz has been just all over the place for this team. He's got a 6.45 ERA, coming off of a not-so-bad start against the Baltimore Orioles, giving up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. His strikeout numbers aren't bad. He's been able to get right around 8 punch-outs per 9 innings, but even go back to what he was able to do during the 2022 campaign, and Command was a little bit all over the place for his career, right around 3 walks per 9 innings. He's got some development to do, and for the Detroit Tigers, this bullpen is right around 20th in the league in terms of ERA. Unlike last year when you had guys like Michael Fulmer, Gregory Soto, along with Andrew Chafin in the bullpen, now you're relying upon more unknowns. Jose Cicero along Jason Foley have been solid for the team, especially Foley. He's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. You've been able to get some solid innings out of Alex Lang as well, but Tyler Holton, someone like a Trey Wingenter, have not been good in this bullpen. Meanwhile, for the New York Mets, this has been a team that has been a top 10 bullpen in terms of ERA. Now, they are dealing with some injuries as well, as now they've got someone like Zach McCurran, who is seeing some innings. Steven Agosic, if he has to come in long relief, he's actually been really good for the team in recent years, so I do think that that is going to be of impact. John Curtis with 2 S's. He's been able to hold down the fort relatively okay for the team, but you want to be trusting in a little bit more. Someone like a David Robertson, who's been a solid closer. They are dealing with the injury to Brooks Raley, but Drew Smith is someone I do like for the team. And for the New York Mets, it's been a little bit hot and cold in terms of lineup. Pete Alonso has really been the only guy to supply some boom. He's got 11 of the team's 31 home runs thus far this season. As a whole, the Mets are hitting at .242 with quite a few guys towards the bottom of the line not holding up their end of the bargain. Starling Marte, Francisco Lindor, Tommy Pham, Francisco Alvarez, Mark Canha, all these guys hitting between about a $191 to a $226. Meanwhile, the top of the fold is really picking up. Brett Baty, the rookie, I don't think he's going to be able to keep this up, but he's hitting at .333. Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, both hitting above a 300. Daniel Vogelback, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to find it, and this Detroit Tigers lineup has been one of the worst in all of baseball. As you've got a pair of guys in Nick Maton along Kerry Carpenter supplying 4 home runs, but between the two of them, they are combining for an on-base of right around a 279, and you got a combined batting average right around a 200. That has been far from terrific. Spencer Torkelson just cannot find it. He's hitting a 205. He's not hitting for any power whatsoever. Riley Green is hitting about a 235, and just take a look at the entirety of the Detroit Tigers team. Among guys with north of 65 at-bats, you've got one guy that's hitting above a 238 and Matt Vierling, so that has been terrible. Guys like Javi Baez and company have just not been hustling, so this is a circumstance where in the Lucchesi versus Wentz start, I did set Joey Lucchesi as a minus 166 favorite, and like I said, 8 or less, looking at the over 8.5 or higher. Going to be taking a look at the under, and assuming that we get Scherzer versus Michael Lorenzen, set the Mets at a minus 185 one to lay up to a minus 120 on the run line, and made my total an 8.1, where an 8 or less, I'm going to be taking a look at the over and 8.5 or higher to the under. With Michael Lorenzen, I just have zero faith in him whatsoever, because with Lorenzen, he has been a complete and utter hot mess in terms of the walks. Ever since he became a full-time starter last season with the LA Angels, north of 4 walks per 9 innings, doesn't really get a lot of strikeouts, giving up a home run and a half per 9 innings. And Max Scherzer hasn't looked like himself, but that suspension that he undertook might not be a bad thing. In the previous 2 starts prior to that suspension, he only went a combined 8 innings because he was tossed from that Dodgers game, but he had 8 scoreless innings. He was starting to pick up his swing and miss stuff. Now, the walks have been a little bit of an issue this year for Scherzer. 9 walks in 19 and a third innings, but I think he's going to be able to go out there and he's going to dominate whoever he goes up against. If you do see a little bit of a shuffling of the pitchers, these numbers won't move overly much, because if you get like Joey Wentz instead of Michael Lorenzen, I'm not really too big of a deal there. So with Lucchesi, I set him as a minus 166 favorite. Scherzer minus 185. More of an even money run line price on Lucchesi, minus 122 with Max Scherzer. And really in both cases, I'm going to be taking a look at an 8.5 or higher to the under as well. So that's my handicap there. And we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals playoffs to the LA Angels. Shohei Ohtani is going to be going for the Halos, and Miles Mikolas is on the bump for St. Louis. St. Louis is between a plus 120 to a plus 130 underdog. Meanwhile, in between minus 140 and minus 145, seeing as low as minus 136. Your number on the Angels, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, unders minus 120. The overs even on the 7.5. Overs between minus 110 and minus 120. The unders anywhere between even and minus 110. And with the Angels, set them minus 158 on the money line. If you're looking at that run line, I was willing to take anything about plus 108 or higher. Find that between plus 125 and plus 130. I'm going to be willing to go with the run line, because I do think that the Angels are going to be able to light up Miles Mikolas, who, ever since the All-Star break of the 2022 campaign, has north of a 4.75 ERA. He just has not been able to find it this year, and the command is always solid with Miles Mikolas. 9 walks in 31 and 2/3 innings, but been lit ablaze, giving up 6 home runs. Opponents are hitting nearly a 300 off of him. That has been very far from stellar. As a matter of fact, a 333, and in his 3 home starts thus far this season, he has given up 12 earned runs in 15 innings, despite giving up just 1 home run. Just giving up contact upon contact, going up against an LA Angels lineup that it's going to be rock solid, with having out there Shohei Ohtani along with Mike Trout. Both of these guys done a great job moving the line, getting on base, north of 360 on base for both of them. Hunter Renfroe last year with the Brewers, he was hitting at 250 with 25 home runs. He's right on pace to do that once again this season. Taylor Ward has been a little bit rough. They removed him from that top spot, and yesterday he was able to provide a home run and 3 RBI, so you like to see that. Your Urshela has been hitting nearly a 300. Now, the catcher spot has been a little bit tough with Logan O'Hoppe being out of the fold, but by and large, it's a fortified LA Angels lineup, and the St. Louis Cardinals are one of the better lineups out there in the big leagues. They have been incredibly unlucky with regards to power numbers, as really Tommy Edman coupled with Nolan Gorman have been your main power bats for the team, but Paul DeYoung now hitting above a 300. Paul Goldschmidt has done a great job of being able to move the line. He's hitting about a 300 going to yesterday. Just 4 home runs. You know that that's going to be going northward. And Nolan Arenado, he's been in a funk. Just 2 home runs, hitting about a 240 entering into yesterday. I know that he's going to be picking it up as well, but by and large, this is a Cardinals team that is one of the best batting averages in the league. It is a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark in St. Louis, but I do think that Shohei Ohtani is just going to be able to shut them down. Shohei Ohtani has been amazing this year. Does need to work on the walks. 4.5 walks per 9 innings. And if you look at the numbers and the numbers themselves with the LA Angels bullpen, it looks decent. They entered into yesterday with a 3.13 bullpen ERA. That is 8th in the league. Anyone that bets on baseball knows that this LA Angels bullpen is much more of a roll of the dice, and they are not the 8th best bullpen in the big leagues. I actually do like Matt Moore. Sub-2 ERA, he's been solid, but Chase Silseth, Jaime Barria, these are your long guys. Ryan Tepera, he's way long in the tooth. He's not necessarily a guy that I'm willing to trust in with his north of 11 ERA. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, since the back half of the 2022 season, he's lost it a little bit. Jordan Hicks has been all over the place. I like Genesis Cabrera, Giovanni Gallegos. These guys are relatively solid, but Chris Rand north of a 4 ERA. Jojo Romero's right now posting up a $1.50 ERA. We all know that that's going to be climbing northward as well. So I do think that the LA Angels should be able to go out there and dominate this one. I am willing to take them on the run line because I do think that they get to Miles Michaelis, and I did set my total at an 8.1. So being able to get between 7.5 and an 8, going to be taking a look at the over to go along this Angels run line, and that will wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family and podcast. A big thanks to Jeff Parles. Does amazing work here at VSiN. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment, idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at GNN_D1. Keep in mind, letter CM. Name does not matter, so as per usual, please just send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. That means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.